Welcome to Toy Engineering with Mamta Singhal. Hi Mamta, great to see you again.
Hi, Jamie.
Can we start with what your route was into engineering?
Yeah, so I actually never thought I'd become an engineer. I loved maths and art, and so really thought of becoming either a graphic designer or an architect. But then I found this amazing course that allowed me to combine the arts and sciences together, which was product design engineering. And so, yeah, I signed up and I've never really looked back.
Right.
So, found my calling, I think.
Yeah. So you've got 3 degrees, Mamta. Can you tell us what your degrees are and how they've helped you in your engineering career?
Of course. So I take quite a traditional route into the world of work straight after school. I did a bachelor's of engineering in product design engineering. So it's a bit like mechanical engineering, manufacturing engineering with a very strong design and a creative side.
Yeah.
But in Scotland, you can leave school quite young if you pass your exam. So I left school at 17.
Right.
So when it came to graduating, I was only 21. So I decided to do a master's and also broaden my skills.
Yeah.
And I did that master's from the Department of Design, Manufacturing, Engineering Management at Strathclyde University. And so, yeah, I walked, 22 years old. I was ready for the world of industry, lived away from home, big steps.
Yeah.
But quite soon after that, 5 or 6 years in industry, I thought I'll go back. I had the technical skills, but really wanted to get the commercial angle onto
Yeah.
my resume.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I focused a lot around creativity, finance, and business, and I signed up to do an MBA. So I was the youngest on the course, just 26,
Right.
paying a massive MBA fee
Yeah.
and
Yes.
sacrificing my salary for 2 years. But it was a very entrepreneurial couple of years, and it allowed me to develop a couple of engineering ideas and products that I had. And that was
Right.
actually the year that I won one of the prizes at the Young Women Engineer of the Year Awards
Okay. Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
Institution of Engineering Technology. So it kind of paid back to take the time back out and
Yes. Yeah.
reflect.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful to Strathclyde and all those that supported me all those years ago. It feels like a while ago, but it's paying dividend now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now talking a bit more specifically, how did you actually get involved with with toy engineering and get involved in the toy industry?
Sure. I guess children all love toys, and as a young child, I used to make my own board games and toys, and little did I know that I'd make a profession out of something along those lines, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's a child's dream to play and make money at the same time. So
yes,
I was always fascinated by how things worked, whether it was the hairdryer or the washing machine, but also toys. And back in the 90s, there was an amazing film called Big, where Tom Hanks becomes a toy developer
yeah,
for
yes,
a
yeah,
world famous toy company.
yes, I remember it, yes.
And I just thought, wow, there is my job. And I was very fortunate that at 19, I got a job at Polaroid as a student, and they were
Right,
doing children's cameras
yeah,
in partnership with Warner Brothers. And so when it came to applying to actual full-time work with uh, after I graduated, I found a job at Hasbro, and the light, the connection, and my passion, I guess, came through.
yeah,
And I've never really looked back, and I've spent a very happy 10 years in the sector.
right, yeah. So obviously there's lots of different engineering disciplines within the toy industry. Can you explain a little bit more about the disciplines that you worked with and worked alongside?
Yeah, I mean, we always think engineering is about heavy industry with oily hands and boiler suits, but
Yeah,
actually, the world of engineering is everywhere, and particularly around toy development. I mean, I can't think of an industry that has more kind of bits of intricate mechanisms and
yeah,
the varieties and fascinating. So you've got people that are chemical engineers because you're looking at slime and different
yeah,
glue
yeah,
properties and different things. Mechanical engineers looking at projectiles and speed of vehicles. Safety is paramount, absolutely paramount within the sector. So we've got a lot of mechanical engineers that are focused, and design engineers that focus on safety and compliance and regulations as well. And then design engineers. And you've also got sound engineers. I mean, you can only imagine the sound lab within an engineering toy world. It's from giggling robots to baby products and squeaky cow sounds and all sorts. So it's a very diverse engineering world. But so you've got test engineers, electrical, mechanical, computer-aided design, prototyping. Materials are massive, different textures, particularly for preschool toys. And then the fluids and thermodynamic side as well is also very important. So a very very interesting field for any engineer, so I'd highly recommend it.
So obviously there's different routes into the toy industry, apprenticeships and graduate schemes. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Sure. I mean, I take quite a traditional route. I graduated and then got a role as a junior toy engineer. But I know the companies in the States are very likely to take on apprentices. They definitely take on MBA graduates. I know the firms I worked were very much advocates of those with the kind of the business and technical background. But more than anything, to show a real interest in the field. Have something in your resume that you've designed or engineered. I'd looked at buggies for Disneyland during my student days, and medical toys for children and medical equipment for children. So that was already there in my armour. So when I went to present my work for my job interviews, I already showed that kind of interest and passion. So I don't think there's a defined route, but it is very much like getting in that children's space, or that space where it's about playfulness and being quite excited and having the character and the personality to back that.
So what skills do you think would help a person working in the toy industry?
And like with any job, I think business acumen and technical abilities is key. So having those essential skills is, because you're working with very experienced engineers, you're working with very experienced business players. So that's important. But it's also the slightly less kind of formal things, like just absolute understanding of the brands. I mean, I've worked with some amazing heritage brands within the toy sector. Monopoly, Fisher Price. They've got great backstory. So understand the background and the kind of the thing that brought that toy to life. Being quite outgoing, fun, and creative. Because I think because it is children's items, it tends to drive an energy and a passion and a playfulness that if you don't have, I don't think you would fit in. I mean, I could tell stories upon stories of sitting on children's seesaws and testing out products regularly, from cuddling little baby toys to see what if they were huggable enough. It's not a formal test, but it's quite sweet to kind of just break away from the seriousness of the job as well.
So obviously there's lots of health and safety procedures involved in making toys. Can you explain the importance of it and why it's so crucial to have these regulations in place?
Of course. So I guess children are incredibly vulnerable, particularly under the age of 3 years old, where their dexterity and their verbal skills, etc., are not as fully developed as they would be when they're adults. It's important that things are as safe and as comfortable for the child to play with. And children also learn through experimenting and playing. And so you find children are doing things with toys that maybe they're not naturally designed to do. And you see that they put things in their nose and in their mouth and in the ears. The pictures that I did see of, sadly, some A&E incidences, it's quite sad, because children just don't realise that it's not what you should be doing. You shouldn't
No,
be
that's
hiding
right.
beads in your ears and up your nose and bits
Yeah,
of Lego
yeah,
in your mouth. And the reality is it's actually quite dangerous. So
yeah,
developing things that are in tune with their world, and they're also very sensitive. You know, their skin is very vulnerable, so we can't have tattoo or makeup with certain chemicals or
yeah, yeah,
ingredients in them. We've got to be very mindful of sharp points, sharp edges, small parts, entrapment and suffocation. You know, it's very serious stuff, and it's
yeah,
life-threatening
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if done incorrectly. So what can be seen as an innocent toy can actually be quite dangerous.
yeah,
And we as engineers are sitting there going, how could this be misused? How could this be dangerous as well? So constantly looking for risks and risk assessing things. And the other area that's very dangerous for children are batteries and magnets.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're both choking hazards, but also the chemicals and all sorts of areas that they can damage their intestines in such a severe way. I mean, it can be permanent damage. So there are rules around it, but those checks have to be done by a range of people because, you know, we are putting, you know, life's at risk if not
yeah,
done properly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess it's lots of fun working in the toy industry, but can it also be quite stressful?
So yeah, like any job, it can be stressful. I wouldn't think any job's not been stressful that I've done, but it's good stress and bad stress, right? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a little bit of pressure, a little bit of intensity is healthy, and it's quite exciting.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, there is obviously an element of stress around any job,
yeah,
and it's just making sure your team's aligned, updated, you get things done, you keep on top of it, try not to be too complacent about too many things, but also
yeah,
know when you can, you know, do something a bit quicker if you're very good at a certain area. So just yeah, no, it can be tough. I mean, you're working internationally, so different cultures, different time zones,
yeah,
and
yeah,
different expectations.
yeah,
So just being politically savvy and culturally aware are paramount. And working with engineers and non-engineers has its challenges. So I might
yeah,
be working with someone with 40 years experience in toy safety, and I'm sitting here with 5.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They're miles ahead of me, or with a non-engineer that really just wants the product out there
yeah,
and maybe isn't as focused on the nitty-gritty and doesn't understand why batteries are so dangerous. So it's finding that balance and being able to flex your style, and that can be tough, but it's also very rewarding if done well, and seeing the product out there is worth every minute of the
yeah,
stress and
yeah,
strain that one goes through.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what skills do you feel you've been able to transfer from each job that you've undertaken?
Sure. So I've worked as a design engineer and a quality engineer and as a project manager within the toy sector, and they all come with different strengths and weaknesses. And I think one thing is being able to work in teams.
Yeah,
So you're working with people that are designers through to finance, through to very technical manufacturing people. So being able to work with them and give them the right information, because not everyone needs to know all the nitty gritty of each project. So
that's right.
being very aware of your audience.
Yeah,
And the other thing that I've taken away is I've got a real breadth when it comes to regulations and understanding um, quite a bit about legal requirements, not just
right.
in toys, but also non-toy items, because what is a regulation or what is an issue within one field is likely to become an issue within other sectors. You know, I think of reducing packaging or safety aspects and small parts. It will eventually filter down into other sectors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I picked up quite a lot of CAD over the years as well,
Right.
computer
Yeah.
aided design, and also just managing emails. I mean, I think every job involves a lot of emails. So
Yeah.
if someone can master that, I'm all ears. But yes, I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
So, if I was looking for a job in the toy industry, what company should I be looking out for, or maybe even approaching?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked for Mattel, Hasbro and Winning Moves, and again, three very interesting companies doing
Yeah.
amazing things. Winning Moves is actually a spin out from Hasbro, so but they're very established now in what they do.
Yeah.
But there are other ones. I mean, there's Spin Master, Toby Toys, Disney are doing very interesting things,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of startups and a lot of entrepreneurial companies doing toy development and development within the children's space. So I
Yeah.
think there's no right or wrong, but I think just showing that you've got an interest. And there's also areas not purely within toys, but also that are toy or child related. So whether it is developing video games
Yeah.
or computers or other aspects for children, it's still a very interesting field because the consumer is very aware of what they want, but it's hard to put yourself in a child's mind always.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think one company that's doing very well is Lego, and
Right.
building on their literally building on their construction portfolio. They've moved leaps and bounds over the years.
Yeah. 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 So do you think it's beneficial for individuals to actually reach out to companies?
Absolutely. I mean, that's how I got my first foot into the toy industry. As I phoned up Hasbro, and you know, as luck would have it, they had an engineering vacancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, these days we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, so that they're all great means of reaching out to the right people within those businesses and saying, look, I'm really interested. Can I come in and have
Yeah. Yeah.
a chat? Is there anyone I can speak to? So try and get those links in. There's a lot of good toy recruiters and toy magazines as well, like Toy News as well.
Right.
They're all doing great things, and it's just finding the right people. It's a very close-knit community. I'm still in touch with many of my colleagues in the sector.
Right.
So yeah, I would really encourage people to go to any place they can find toy people. You know, there's toy fairs as well. You can meet these people. You can
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
to these events, and they're open to the public. So if you are interested, absolutely, that's a step forward.
Yeah. So what was the worst bit about working in the toy industry?
Yes, it's not all fun and games.
No.
It does have its drawbacks. I think it's a very unpredictable environment,
Right.
and probably one of the most volatile environments I've ever worked in, because
Okay.
you don't know what a child will truly like. You don't know
Yeah.
what will be the toys of Christmas. And if we look at what toys have been toy of the year,
Yeah.
year on year, there isn't really a pattern, because
No.
it takes one famous child or an Instagram follower or something to happen for
That's
every
right. Yeah.
child
Yeah.
almost to link into that. So if I think of Frozen, I don't think Disney ever expected Frozen to be as big
No.
as
No.
it ended up being. And I remember going to the Disney head office to watch Frozen before it was actually launched.
Right.
And yeah, it was a fantastic, brilliant children's cartoon. But I mean, what, 5, 6 years on, we're still seeing, you know,
That's
Frozen
right.
items in
Yeah.
the shop,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're now doing a sequel to it, so that's going to be launching soon. So you do find that it is very driven, very competitive, and it's very brand focused. And brands are being bought and sold by different companies on a daily basis.
Yes.
And yeah, so it is very competitive, but also very supportive, because I think we all love being in that industry. So
Yeah.
we have some great parties. There's an amazing events within the sector, and you also get to play with toys and
Yeah.
play test items as well. So I got some good staff discounts over the years as well for my nieces.
So for you, what were the best bits about working in the toy industry?
I think with any job that I've truly enjoyed, it's the people.
Right.
And I was very lucky at 23 to be working in an international team. I got trips out to America and to Europe,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just experienced, you know, real working life at a very young age,
Yes.
and on very powerful brands, you know, so Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Action Man and Monopoly, you know, I think that
Yeah,
that was a dream job at 23. I couldn't have landed a better job.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, I worked in a fantastic product that had little monkeys, and going out to the factory in Boston to see those monkeys getting made in this massive factory that was um, probably the size of about 14 football pitches. So
right,
you were in
okay,
this little
yeah, yeah,
buggy. Yeah, it was
yeah,
huge. And they were making toys for the whole of America. And it just put into scale and perspective the how important toys are to
yeah,
children. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
was very lucky to be trained as well by amazing engineers out in Buffalo when I worked at Fisher Price.
right, yeah,
And working on toys that I remember as a child as well. So they're brands and products that are just being reinvented
yeah, that's
for
right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
21st century. And then I went out to LA as well. So
right,
I got to go on the Mattel play bus that takes you
right,
from one
okay,
side to
yeah,
another
yeah,
and meet the CEO of the business. And yeah, I think there was just so many amazing memories from going trampolining with my colleagues on the weekend when I was out there to late night calls about the memories outweigh any of the negatives at
right,
all while
yeah.
working in the toy industry. It's been great.
So, just a few tips from you now. If somebody was looking for their CV to stand out, because obviously it's a very saturated market, what tips could you give somebody?
I think confidence and showing a real interest, and it's for the brands. I mean, these are some of these brands have got steeped in heritage, steeped in exciting backstories and all sorts of
Yeah,
things. You know, I think of how Jenga came about, I think of Monopoly, I think of all these brands that we probably have interacted with but don't truly know the backstory.
no, no, that's
And,
right.
and same with Barbie, you know, she's got a fascinating backstory. I mean, she's one of the most iconic dolls in the world, but
Yeah,
actually, how did she come about? And to know that and to be able to reiterate that in an interview shows passion.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's really important. But also know the competitors for those businesses and understand the challenges that that business may have.
yeah,
Think about their history, and where they might go in the future. So what technology, what bits of engineering, or you know what might be trends in the market, and also what can you give? You know, you're maybe a new person in this
yeah,
business. What energy, what knowledge are you bringing to the table? Because they're also looking at your insights. So they're all really useful things that I do, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and ask questions, because if you ask questions, it shows that you're genuinely interested in
yeah,
what the company is looking for
yeah,
and what
yeah,
they might be wanting.
yeah. So one piece of advice I give young people is, enjoy your journey. Don't rush your career. You know, be patient. Set yourself achievable goals, but be flexible because life changes and circumstances change. What advice would you give somebody that was going to start on their journey today?
Yeah, and I think there's so many bits of advice I wish my younger self knew, and
Yeah,
I think I think that you know, enjoy the highs. I mean, there'll be some amazing moments in your career,
yeah,
whether it's the people you meet, or the projects you work on, or the traveling, or whatever that may be. But there's also going to be some tough times, and I think resilience is paramount,
yeah,
and in the environment that we all work in, you know, for all sorts of reasons. And know what you want to do. You know, have a bit of a goal. I mean, I roughly knew what I wanted to do, and I kept at it.
yeah,
But yeah, I think resilience and actually just believe in yourself,
yeah,
because if you do, not everyone will, but just keep working hard, and at some point the cream of the crop will reach the top, as my head of engineering told me many years ago. So
yeah,
yeah, just just aim just aim high.
yeah. Mamta, thank you so much for your time. It was great to speak to you today.
Thank you very much.